So content means you have great intention, right? You want to treat people well. How will people come to know? You have a vision of the company. How will people come to know? You'll have to give it some shape. You'll have to use some medium to communicate that. That's content. Now, once let's say you say value. Like, I'll give you a simple example. In PlugHr, we have 1 belief and 5 values. Right. Now, how will people come to know? People who join us, how will they come to know that we have this 1 belief and 5 values? So we have written a book. It says The Way We Are. PlugHr, The Way We Are. That book is our value book. And it's a very narrative book. The way I'll explain to somebody my values is how we have written that book. And it's an e-book available online. So whenever somebody joins and we do some serious employment discussion with someone, we ask him just go and read that book. We send him a link saying read this book. And if you relate to these values, then write to us. Right? Then we will do the assessment, interview, whatever. People who join, we ask them to read the book. Right? So it's the content. Now, the second part is conduct. So whatever values we are saying, if he reads the book, joins inside, so he doesn't find that we are really following those, and our actual walk is very different from what that value said, then again it's not going to build the culture. So you will have to sync the content and conduct in a manner that is going to build the culture. Content will aid the brand. It will tell the person, get a feel also. So compared to, let's say, I putting up a poster in my reception for a candidate who walks in, the fact that I have written an e-book and it's available gives a little different feel to the person. So one of our values is that we are curious, contemporary learning and sharing types, right? Now in that, it's our value number 3. In that, the term contemporary is defined as saying that we will be real-time modern, which means we will be using things which belong today. Now we reflect that in the fact that we have an e-book, right? So that automatically gives them the impression that, oh, they are really using the tools of today. So they are not just saying we will be contemporary and then I am getting a courier of a book. Yeah, so you have to align the conduct with what your content says. It's a deep thought, right? And it won't be done over these small little exercises. So one of the things I recommend for a lot of business owners, at least at the startup stage, is plan your work for 11 months in a year, maybe 10 months. Give 1 month for your vacations, give 1 month for thinking. So you consider your year is 10 months and not 12 months. Because if you think if your calendar is 12 months, right, then you're too tight. Then nobody is doing owner's job.
You're saying 1 month of thinking as you just take off?
You take off, you only think. You think. You do at least 3 think weeks. So within thinking you also need to give a break, right? So there's a vacation within thinking week as well. You can't continuously think for 4 weeks. Right? Your mind will go empty. You burn out. So you break that, but minimum 3 think weeks in a year. If the competitive business is what you want to run, and all these things is what you want to put in place. They are about deep thinking. They are not going to come out even if you give yourself half a day and there are phone ringings and in the office, you can't really think. You'll be surprised how you will not be able to even write 5 core values to your business if you actually don't go to the think week. And go out and shut phones, whatever. Then only it happens. See, business is thought only. A lot of us actually think that it's the running on the ground and execution and all. Business is thought. As an entrepreneur, business is thought. Once you have thought in the place, customers will come. Right? Once you have the model right, once you have everything right, it will happen, right? Nobody is asking you to send SMSs right now, right? There's a method in place. You have a phone in hand. You will send SMSs. People will make money. Execution will keep happening. That doesn't require you. What requires you is the framework of your business, the core elements of your business, models of your business. Once you have put that in place and you are refining it year after year, execution side of business will happen. Everything else is methods. What is saying? You have to focus on content and conduct. Rest all are methods. Stronger the culture, more immaterial is the method. So it will not matter whether you have thumb impression for attendance or retina scan or DNA scan, whatever for attendance, because you would have decided that I am not going to measure attendance, a useless thing. So it's okay if some people work for 7 hours instead of 8 on a particular day, because I know everyone who lands up doesn't work 8 hours actually, right? They work 22 hours. So how does it matter? Yeah, but if you want to change that and say, listen, early morning hours are extremely important for a company and we want to put the best minds together at early mornings so that we don't lose the freshness, then start hosting a breakfast in the morning. And a killer breakfast which people will not want to miss and see your attendance. Why should somebody come so early? What is there? So have your machine coffee? That first hour in most of the organization is just so sad actually, that most people want to just skip it. Either you're going to pull up some people or something, I mean it's just of no use. So, yeah.
Again, when we're saying it's a startup and we're trying to basically, I'm just trying to crystallize this again, just took 2 minutes to think over it, but you have a startup and it's primarily driven by a couple of people or just one person, and this person has a way he wants to run the business. That primarily would dilute, say it's a 100% company now or a 200% company by now, and primarily there's no HR person in place. The proprietor or the partner is the HR itself who's driving most of the stuff. How do you basically, are you saying that it's my thought process of how the culture needs to be is to basically become what the company is and that's how I want to attract people, or would it evolve? I'm just trying to get the connect in terms of how is it different from me as what I wanted?
So see, as an owner, your capability is not you are not a bandwidth. So one thing we need to figure out is that bandwidth is a separate question and thought is a separate question. Your commitment to your own business is about thought and not about bandwidth. When you sit and do it is a different thing, right? You are blocking some 2 people's job and you are doing their job because that's whatever, right? But that shouldn't be done. Then nobody is doing owner's job, nobody is doing the CEO's job. Your company doesn't have a CEO, right? The CEO has become HR manager. Right. So, I mean that's one of the, and that does happen, right? People forget what's their job and everyone does. So what your HR manager does is a gatekeeper job, right? And so everyone does their junior job. Actually, data says that people typically end up doing 2 level down jobs, not just 1 level, 2 level down jobs, because there's a push from up. CEO is fond of doing execution, so CEO ends up doing execution. So then the front line ends up doing manager job. The functional heads do manager job. Managers do frontline job, and frontlines wonder why was I hired.
So you're asking us to crystallize it and basically that's how it becomes a brand and
Thought.
that's how attract the right people who can basically.
Absolutely. Give thought, put the people, execution champions in place, let them drive it. Give execution freedom. Control should be at the thought and not at the method. Method is immaterial. See, startup stages. See, when you grow into larger organization structures, a lot of other things will start mattering more. But at an early stage, these are the only 2 important things. You want the control at the thought, and you want to make sure that execution happens in time and at the expected delivery levels.
Usually, in most of the startup situations, even if there are, more than one person as the initial partners, typically they come from a common background. It could be just maybe 2-3 of marketing partners with a marketing background, or people with a technology background. In many cases, they don't have a complete, profile. Now, in that situation, you still go ahead and start the business. Then how do you go around building a team to complement the missing part? I mean, there the challenge is how do you get a partner? Do you get someone who is an employee? Do you get someone who is employee come partner? So, can you address some of these challenges?
So, our actually exercise will address that. Right? Our exercise will be do quickly. We'll address some of this. Yeah. So what I'll do is quickly run through this. We get into the actual hands-on. Right. Some of these questions will get addressed in a hands-on way. I can give you an answer in a theoretical, but it will still sound theoretical. Let's do it for your own business. It will clearly come out. Yeah. And idea is keep it simple. Right. You as a limited resource company in the beginning, you can just manage a couple of things. So I mean, don't manage attendance. Right. It's just too trivial to manage an issue. Okay, that's a little stuff.
At what point of time does attendance really start figuring? Is it ever important in a
good company.
So as a so now that we move into slightly about what kind of culture you build, right? So if I am running as a CEO, to me it will never matter, right? But I mean there are methods of leaders, the kind of leaders who like a particular way of functioning, etc. Right? And it also depends on what's your client commitments. So your client commitments may demand that certain degree of adherence or punctuality, etc. is required, presence is required. It may be difficult for you to ensure that degree of compliance from home locations or in an unstructured way. So your business will demand that kind of a presence, right, in some scenario. It's more of a business modeling challenge. So, this was one question when once I was talking about how PlugHr offers flexibility. Like we offer any number of days you want to work. So from 2 days a week to 3 days a week to 4 days a week to 5 days a week. You can choose how many days a week's job you want with PlugHr, right? We allow you to choose your employment model, and you are still full-time employee. So we don't say you are contract freelance. You may be on a 2 days a week employment model, and you can run. And then you say I'm ready for 4 days a week. You can migrate to 4 days or 5 days. Right, so one of the questions which came up once was that how do you do that in our business? Let's say we can't do this, our structure is not that. But the fact is, when you design your business, you have to design keeping in mind what kind of flexibilities you want to keep. So if you have a running business which has a kind of client commitment and you structured the business assuming that it will work from a premises, and then suddenly you want to offer a lot of flexibility, you will have challenges, right? You can only offer a limited flexi hours and this and that. But if you have built the business right at the design level, saying that in my model there is going to be high level of flexibility, then even at the client side, your delivery commitment, etc., will be thought through accordingly.
How much of this will be dictated by the owner versus competition?
It will be dictated by competition. So everything finally gets dictated by competition, your brand strategy, because to fight competition, your top tool is your brand differentiation, right? So you may want to play contra, for an example, right? So you may say that while all my competitors have a very, very fixed environment, I will keep so flexible that nobody would want to work there. So I'll actually make them weak by the talent side, and that is going to give me the edge to attend to my clients. So it's about which strategy you choose, right? So you will want to beat them at their game, or you may want to change the game, rules of the game. Those are all. So see, HR and brand is so integral. Your HR will support that strategy which you choose. So if you choose timing, HR will build a plan in which people who love to work in time and who are disciplined, who get nervous when working in an unstructured environment, those kind of people are getting attracted, right? If your strategy is to be work from home, flexi, etc., then your HR will develop programs by which you can identify that this guy is going to actually sleep at home and not really work. Yeah, so HR will need to then align to that strategy.
Excuse me. Management of a very flexi workforce is quite challenging, right? I mean, how do you really? It's not about hounding them or figuring out. Of course, ultimately the work needs to be done. But how is the entire management process? How as an HR, you make sure that you're giving them flexible time, but in some way ensuring that they don't take it lightly and that is not sort of misuse. That freedom is not misused. Well, how do you draw a line between them?
See, it's more of a thought issue than anything else. Let me give you an example.
How do you actually do that? How do you monitor a flexible workforce?
You train your manager's minds to let go and just relax and feel fine if somebody walks in at 4 o'clock. To feel just fine about it. He didn't have a work that day, so it's okay. He walked in at 5. So what? And not then compare that I came at 10. Right? The problem is that people offer flexibility, but they don't stop comparisons. Right? So when you offer freedom, see, freedom by its own nature means it's freedom. It's like kids, right? You allow kids to say, you had promised kids that you work hard, do this, do that, and when summer vacation comes, I'm not going to ask you to read at all. So you can play any number of hours. You make that commitment. Now that day has come. Now the kid is out playing. Now you bring another rule saying sun is so hard, this and that. Now come for reason of something else. Kid says, well, they are changing the rules. Right? You have to let be. Most of flexibility issues don't come because the guy is not working. It comes because suddenly you are not able to tolerate the fact that there is so much flexibility and freedom.
It's not about actually an execution challenge. It's about the thought challenge, right? So how you design the entire structure.
The question is how you train them.
Yeah, I mean, how do you get that?
How do you?
How you train the thought then? How do you inculcate that?
Can
Yeah,
I just
how do you monitor it?
Yeah, sure.
So the thing is, I run a small company.